Discover the poorest and most primitive country in the world. Can you imagine living in a country where life resembles that of 500 years ago? Where people eat bats and even other strange animals. And on top of that, living isolated in the jungle with 4 women. Meet Guinea-Bissau on the west coast of Africa. It borders Senegal to the north, Guinea to the south and east, and has an extensive Atlantic coastline to the west. It has a land area of 36,125 square kilometers. The capital of Guinea-Bissau is Bissau. The country has a population of 2 million. Interestingly, Guinea-Bissau is a multilingual country. Portuguese is the official language, but there are more than 20 languages spoken in the country, including African languages such as Guinean Creole, Mandinka, and Fulani. What's curious is that a large part of its population lives in tribes in rural areas and jungles, in the most primitive way we can imagine. Life in Guinea-Bissau's tribes is quite simple and traditional. Most people live in small villages, where agriculture is the main economic activity. So to survive, they rely heavily on hunting wild animals such as antelopes, wild boars, hares, and deer. In addition, they eat various insects like crickets, grasshoppers, and ants. They eat these insects because they are usually roasted or fried and are considered a rich source of protein. However, they also eat food similar to ours in Brazil, considering that this country had a lot of Portuguese influence during colonial times. They typically eat beans, peanut soup, rice, and cachupa, which is like a bean and corn soup. Now moving on to another curiosity about this country, polygamy is permitted, and according to 2014 data, research indicates that about 13% of men in Guinea-Bissau practice polygamy. Polygamy is justified by some Guinean men as a way to increase their wealth and social status. Other men argue that polygamy allows them to have more children, which is considered important in Guinean culture. However, polygamy has also been criticized by some groups who argue that it is a form of discrimination against women. Polygamous women generally have fewer rights and opportunities than monogamous women. The government of Guinea-Bissau has taken steps to reduce polygamy, but these measures have so far been ineffective. So, imagine being able to have about 4 women living in the jungles in the most primitive way. What do you think of this lifestyle? Comment below. Continuing, Guinea-Bissau's terrain is characterized by a low, flat coastal plain that extends inland to a plateau region. Most coastal areas consist of lowlands and swamps, especially in the Cachot River Delta and the Geba River estuary. Inland, there are gently sloping plateaus and some low hills. The country's highest point is Mount Kakuluma, at about 300 meters high. Guinea-Bissau is crossed by several rivers, of which the main ones are the Cachot River, the Geba River, and the Corubal River. These rivers play a crucial role in the country's economic and social life, providing transportation routes, a source of water, and support for agriculture. Guinea-Bissau's climate is predominantly tropical, with 2 distinct seasons, a rainy season from June to October, and a dry season from November to May. During the rainy season, the country receives a significant amount of precipitation, leading to flooding in many coastal and deltaic areas. Average temperatures range between 75 degrees Fahrenheit and 86 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year. Guinea-Bissau's vegetation is predominantly composed of savannas, moist tropical forests, and mangroves in coastal areas. The country's biodiversity is rich, hosting a variety of animal and plant species, including several species of birds, primates, reptiles, and fish. Guinea-Bissau has some natural resources, including deposits of bauxite, iron ore, and phosphate. Additionally, fishing is a significant economic activity, given the extensive coastline and the presence of rivers. However, the country faces challenges in the efficient and sustainable exploitation of these resources. Guinea-Bissau's population is predominantly rural, with subsistence agriculture being the main economic activity. However, the country faces significant environmental challenges, including deforestation, soil erosion, land degradation, and the impacts of climate change. The pressure on natural resources, combined with widespread poverty, makes environmental management a crucial issue for the country's sustainable development. The region now known as Guinea-Bissau was inhabited by various ethnicities, each with its own traditions and social structures. Among the ethnic groups were the Mandingos, Balantas, Fulanis, and Bijagos. These communities had organized societies, many of which were based on agriculture, fishing, and trade. Portuguese colonization began in the late 19th century. The Portuguese established trading posts and fortifications in the region, eventually incorporating it as part of the Portuguese colonial empire. During the colonial period, Guineans were subjected to harsh conditions, including forced labor and discrimination. During colonization, the Portuguese exploited Guinea-Bissau's natural resources, including timber, coffee, and cocoa. They also forced Guineans to work on plantations and in mines. Colonization also had a negative impact on Guinean culture. The Portuguese attempted to impose their language, religion, and customs on the Guineans. Resistance against colonial rule began to gain strength strength in the 1950s. The Pidgiguidi Revolt in 1959 was a significant milestone, with workers protesting against poor working conditions. This event led to a violent crackdown by colonial authorities. The African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, PAIC, was founded in 1956 by Amilcar Cabral and other leaders. Cabral, an intellectual and activist, became a central figure in the struggle for independence. The PAIC adopted a strategy of armed struggle and political actions to achieve its goals. Armed struggle began in 1963, with the PAIC launching attacks against Portuguese colonial forces. The PAIC employed guerrilla tactics, mobilizing the local population and using bases in neighboring countries such as Guinea-Conakry. Cabral's strategy focused not only on armed resistance, but also on political and social awareness among local communities. In 1973, Amilcar Cabral was assassinated in Conakry, Guinea-Conakry, by internal elements of the PAIC. His half-brother, Luis Cabral, assumed leadership of the party. On September 24, 1973, Guinea-Bissau unilaterally proclaimed independence. In 1974, the Carnation Revolution in Portugal led to the recognition of Guinea-Bissau's independence by Portuguese authorities. After independence, Guinea-Bissau faced significant challenges, including political instability and internal conflicts. Coups and political instability marked the following decades. Socioeconomic issues, such as poverty and underdevelopment, also contributed to the country's fragility. Guinea-Bissau experienced several coups in the decades following independence. Political and military rivalry, along with foreign interference, contributed to chronic political instability. Frequent changes in leadership and internal conflicts hindered the country's development. The international community, including African regional organizations, has sought to mediate conflicts and support efforts to restore stability in Guinea-Bissau. Elections have been held periodically, but the political situation remains challenging. The search for stability and economic development persists, as the Guinean population aspires to a more peaceful and prosperous future. The economy of Guinea-Bissau is characterized by significant challenges, including political instability, widespread poverty, and dependency on specific sectors. The currency of this country is the CFA franc, which is also used in some countries in West Africa, such as Benin, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Togo. However, if we compare this currency with the dollar, we'll see that $1 equals 600 West African CFA francs. So, we see that the dollar is highly valued compared to this currency of Guinea-Bissau. But are things affordable there for those living in the United States or earning in dollars? Stick with me in this video until the end for you to understand everything. Continuing with the economy of Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau's economy is heavily reliant on agriculture, which employs the majority of the active population. Major agricultural products include rice, maize, cassava, peanuts, cashew nuts, and tropical fruits. Cashew nuts are especially important for the country's economy, representing the majority of exports and a crucial source of revenue. Guinea-Bissau has an extensive coastline and a river network rich in fishery resources. Fishing is a vital economic activity, both for domestic consumption and for export. However, the fishing industry faces challenges related to illegal fishing, overfishing, and lack of adequate infrastructure. The country has some natural resources, including deposits of bauxite, iron ore, and phosphate. However, the exploitation of these resources has been limited due to lack of infrastructure, political instability, and poor governance. Trade is an essential part of Guinea-Bissau's economy. Major trading partners include European Union countries, especially Portugal, and other African countries in the region. The country's exports mainly consist of agricultural products, fish, and cashew nuts, while imports consist of consumer goods, fuels, and manufactured products. Guinea-Bissau's economy has been hampered by political instability and weak governance over the decades. Coup, political instability, and corruption have negatively impacted the business environment and foreign investment. Guinea-Bissau relies significantly on external aid and international assistance to finance its budget and development programs. Multilateral organizations and donor countries provide financial aid to support the country's socioeconomic development. Guinea-Bissau is one of the poorest countries in the world, with a large portion of the population living below the poverty line. Economic development has been slow due to a range of factors, including political instability, underdeveloped infrastructure, lack of adequate education and healthcare, and environmental challenges. Speaking now about the cost of living in Guinea-Bissau. The cost of food in Guinea-Bissau is relatively low compared to other countries in the world. However, food accessibility is still a challenge for many people in the country due to poverty and inequality. According to a study by the World Food Program, the daily cost of a nutritious diet for a family of 7 in Guinea-Bissau is $4. However, most Guinean families earn less than $2 per day. The cheapest foods in Guinea-Bissau are basic basic staples such as rice, beans, cassava flour, and fruits. Processed and imported foods are more expensive. A kilogram of rice costs 50 cents, a kilogram of beans costs 80 cents, and cassava flour costs 50 cents per kilogram. On the other hand, bananas cost 25 cents per kilogram. However, meat costs $5 per kilogram, and milk costs almost $2 per liter. Costs at restaurants in Guinea-Bissau are relatively low compared to other countries in the world. Generally, a meal at an inexpensive restaurant in Guinea-Bissau costs about $2 to $3 per person. A meal at a mid-range restaurant costs around $5 to $10 per person. In budget restaurants, you can find rice and beans for $2, a soup for $1, for example. To save money, it is recommended that you eat at budget or mid-range restaurants. Opt for traditional Guinean dishes, which are generally cheaper than international dishes. Now, talking about housing costs in this country, monthly rental costs in Guinea-Bissau vary depending on the type of property, location, and size. Generally, rents in Bissau, the capital, are more expensive than in other cities in the country. For example, a furnished studio apartment in Gabu, the second largest city in Guinea-Bissau, costs about $160 to $300 per month. If we consider the costs here in the United States, these rents are very cheap. In addition to rent, it is important to consider other housing-related costs such as water, electricity, gas, and internet. These costs vary depending on the type of property and location. Generally, utility costs in Guinea-Bissau are relatively low compared to other countries in the world. Water costs between $5 to $10 per month, electricity costs between $10 and $20 per month, gas costs between $5 and $10, and internet expenses range between $10 and $20. Now, if you just want to spend a few days in Guinea-Bissau, check out some accommodation prices. Some hostels cost between $10 to $20 per night, while a hotel can cost between $20 to $50 per night. You'll notice that accommodations have more affordable prices than monthly rent compared to here in the United States. Bissau, the capital of Guinea-Bissau, offers a variety of accommodation options, including hostels, budget hotels, mid-range hotels, and high-quality hotels. Accommodation prices in Bissau are generally higher than in other cities in the country. Keep in mind that outside of Bissau, accommodation options are more limited. However, it is still possible to find hostels and budget hotels in cities like Gabu, the second largest city in Guinea-Bissau. Dude, imagine traveling to beautiful beaches with very beautiful black women, ready to give you affection. All of this you can enjoy by traveling to Guinea-Bissau for tourism. While Guinea-Bissau is a sensational country with an extraordinary history and culture, this country surprises with the way its population lives, with its natural beauty of the jungle, beaches, and also its beautiful women. What do you think about visiting or maybe even living in Guinea-Bissau? Would you go? Would you take advantage of everything this country has to offer? Comment below. I'm signing off here. Until the next video.